Hey,
Well, here we are,
how's the weather over there?
the last set break of the last show of the last tour, and I'm feeling it a little bit. I'm going to miss this,
You aren't the only one, brother. It's been,
but
it's
we're going
been.
to make the most of it.
Can you not hear me?
Now I'm hearing you.
Okay, good.
Just kicked in.
So a little worried
um,
there for a second. Yeah, I'm
well,
feeling it too, man. It's gonna be. This has been just an amazing several years of doing this together, and it's just gotten better and better and more fun, just like the music we're seeing on stage.
yeah. Speaking of that music, why don't you run down that first set list?
All right, well, they began with Bertha into Good Lovin'. They played Loser. They played High Time. They did Samson and Delilah, and I love this year's arrangement of that. Althea, Dear Mr. Fantasy, and Hey Jude, and they closed with Birdsong. I sort of expected a little one more song maybe at the end, but it was perfectly fine. And I have a feeling there's some extra special stuff coming in set two.
I think we're going to get a very generous set too. I have not looked at the set list yet, but
Oh, good.
yeah, but I am here. I'm seeing so many old friends. I'm here with two of my longest running and dearest friends. A lot of hugging, a little misty eyed stuff going on. So happy to be here. We're so happy to be here. And thanks to Nugs.net, we don't have to do much of the Nugs.net pitch. We'll just tell you if you're watching this on the free preview, you'll want to go check out Nugs.net more deeply, try the free trial, and find this incredible bounty of music that you've been getting for this whole tour, for many tours of Dead and Company, an incredible library of music. But I think we really have to also uh, give a plug to the people of Nugs.net, the people
Yeah,
who have
man.
helped us be here. The boss man, Brad Serling, the guys who have been here on site with us, Jacob Lima, Johnny Cunningham, Lonnie Davis, the folks holding down the fort at Nugs.net, Arya Jha and Jeff Gorman. Uh, and the people who make it sound so good, coming to you live. Ross Harris has been doing these phenomenal live audio mixes. And then after the fact, John Altschuler is set loose on him, and he does some remixing and tweaking. So the versions that you get to stream and download are that much better. So thank you to everyone at Nugs, everyone at Dead and
You
Company
got
who
that
have
right.
allowed us to do this. It's been an extraordinary experience.
It really has. It's been a thrill. And we've gotten so much interesting information out of so many different people. I mean, our job has been to get people to talk and tell good stories, and we're good at it. And so we've gotten a really impressive result. It's really been a delight and a thrill. And I'm
And
happy
we've
as
got a
hell
guy
that we
come,
got
yeah,
to do it.
and we've got a guy coming up who's lived a few stories, has
Yeah.
a few
I want to
stories to
say a little
tell.
more about Nugs,
Okay,
please. You're
okay,
there at
all
the
right.
show enjoying the glory of being there with your friends and all that. And me and my wife and a couple of friends are sitting here watching it in our living rooms, and we're enjoying amazingly clear audio, wonderful video, especially this time because they've got extra cameras out there. They got a couple of drones and a cable cam, and we've been seeing these amazing drone shots from above the stadium of the entire Oracle Park and the crowd and everybody. And it's amazing to be able to see all of it. And then we're focusing on Jeff Canenti smiling while he sings. I mean, the Nugs feed is freaking amazing. And it's a miracle that we get to do this. And I got good speakers in here, and the mixes are spectacular.
Yeah, they got pretty good speakers here too. Thanks, Meyer Sound and Ultrasound and all you people who helped invent this stuff. Um, anyway, we should go to that interview. Uh, this is the one I wanted to end all of this pretty much from the very beginning, and we landed him. And I think by process of elimination, you know which band members we talked to. So we're so happy to let this guy take it out with us because he's been around longer than any of them. So let's go to the interview. As we've always said, we won't be back after this. We won't be back after the show. This is it for us. So we'll say goodbye and thank you for an incredible season, all of your kind words and support. And, we'll see you in the next phase of whatever this is.
Right on, man. Thank you.
Well, as people are watching this, there is exactly one set to go in Dead and Company's final tour. And who better to help us try to make some sense of the last couple of months than this guy right here, Bobby Weir.
I am.
It's great to see you, man. It's been an
Yeah.
amazing season. We have loved this tour. Gary and I have watched every single one while we're covering it for Nugs. and we ran out of superlatives a week or two ago because it just kept getting better.
We're having some fun.
A master of understatement, sir. And the tens of thousands of people in each venue are having more than fun. It's really been ecstatic, Bobby. And I've been around this brand of ecstasy for 55 years or so now, so I can be pretty discerning about it. There's been something really special about this tour, and maybe it's because you put that punctuation mark on it, called it a final tour, that there's like a sense of incredible purpose to just about every moment of every show, and maybe urgency is the right word, but everyone is really digging in hard.
That's kind of how it feels. I mean, we got to make it count.
Well, it feels like everything. I mean, you guys have had 8 years to develop your discourse together here, and it just feels like everything is so locked in. And there have been some especially wonderful moments of spontaneity. I'm thinking of that Dark Star Big River mashup that happened in Boston and then came back in an inverted form a few days later. I was literally standing in my living room laughing out loud. It was so much fun. I was so thrilled by that stuff. That's the stuff we signed up for all these years ago.
Yeah, that's the stuff we signed up for as well.
Yeah, it's great when people who have had that long a relationship. I mean, especially you and Mickey, but even the so-called new guys in this band have been around for longer than the lifespan of many bands, for 8 years now. And having the ability to surprise each other is a really great quality in music. And you guys really seem to be digging into that on this tour.
Well, I tell you what, we pretty much had that all along, but there's something a little more crystallized about this tour. I don't know exactly where that comes from, or whether it's that punctuation mark or whatever, but there is something a bit more defined, I guess, about what we're up to. I'd be at, I'm not. I'd be at a loss to try to put my finger on exactly what it is, but it's pretty palpable.
Yeah. As I said to a friend of mine, hey, these guys ought to break up more often.
It's kind of hard to know what kind of question to ask. I've seriously, I've been kind of overwhelmed by the quality of the music on this tour, and I feel like just sort of sitting here showering you with a little bit of more admiration because I'm so delighted by what you've done.
Well, thanks. That's the last thing I want to hear, but that's okay.
I know, but still.
Well, I mean, never turn down a little positive affirmation, Bobby. It may not come again very soon.
Well, I mean, it just feels like you're hitting on all cylinders here. The Wolf Bros stuff this year has also been amazing, and we've gotten to see that idea developing in its own way. And then this whole thing, I don't know, you're 75 years old, and nobody seems to think there's any likelihood of you slowing down anytime soon, and everybody seems pretty happy about that.
Well, a bunch of stuff that I've been working at or wanting to get a crack at doing all my life is now becoming, within reach, and I'll be stir-fried if I'm gonna walk away from that.
Yeah, well, I know, Bobby, you and I first spoke at any length almost 50 years ago. First time I ever interviewed you was 1973. And you had just put out Wake of the Flood, and you had done a little extended orchestration on the Weather Reports suite. And you described that process to me of singing out parts to the horn players and all that. And you also said that was something you wanted to do more of in the future. And of course, then the Grateful Dead got locked into 3 tours a year and all those shows. And you're just now realizing some of these things that you've been thinking about for a very long time.
Yeah. Well, that's that stuff doesn't go away, and you sweep it under the rug for a little while, and it's going to come back and bite you. You got to get to it. You got to manifest it somehow, or it'll just eat you alive. And so that's what I've been up to.
Are you telling me you've got a head full of ideas that are driving you insane?
Something like that. Yeah.
This one of the ways to characterize this style of music making is improvisation within a structure, and you guys have mastered that obviously since the very beginning. What we're seeing with Wolf Bros in particular is more sophisticated structures that are still able to support pretty wild improvisation, and that's quite an accomplishment, I think.
Well, once again, thanks or shucks or whatever. I mean, that's where the fun is.
Yeah, that was really writ large with the two things you've done so far with symphony orchestras, which is also a dream you've been harboring for a
Yeah.
long time, and did a little bit with First Fusion a few years ago. But the realization of it now is really, really strong. And the fact that you're even letting some of the section players in the symphony orchestra have some room to blow
Yeah.
has really been fantastic. The first violinist in DC, I saw the last night of that run. She just ripped off a solo, I think it was on Jack Straw, that I'm sure got a response that she's never gotten while playing, a Brahms symphony or anything like that. People dancing in the aisles, for example.
Well, a lot of those players, well, it's about half and half as far as I can tell. About half of the players in a symphony orchestra think of themselves as technicians, and they simply don't improvise. And if you ask them to improvise, they'll tell you no. And then
Yes.
the other half of them roughly moonlight as jazz bows and stuff like that, and they're more than happy to improvise. And so you lean on those folks. Well, we're finding ways to identify the guys in the orchestra or the folks in the orchestra who do improvise, and the whole orchestra, sort of plumps up when they feel that they're being called on to do that. And so I think that's a good move. And we get to hear improvisations that we wouldn't otherwise hear. We get to hear other countries heard from.
Yeah. And even in the smaller context of the Wolf Pack, you've got guys who have had a lot of experience playing really intricate jazz charts, some, playing through chord changes that can, drive mere mortals crazy. So they're really well suited to play in the context of your music and have periods where they can kind of rewrite the charts on the fly. And you've deputized them to do that because you want them to surprise you as well.
Yeah, and that's once again where the fun is. When those guys come up with a new arrangement on the fly for a given piece. How long are we going to have here? Okay, 16 bars. Okay, we're going to have to pack this in. And they can do this on the fly, or 32 bars, whatever. They can put together a piece that has a beginning, a development, and then a denouement or whatever. That all of which will happen within that 16 or 32 bars or whatever, and that's and it's new, and then they get excited and we get excited. The rhythm section gets excited, and it's back and forth. We trade it back and forth.
I'm curious, how do you identify the players in the orchestra that are up for that?
They identify themselves pretty much. They pretty much sit up and beg.
So you're bringing new opportunities to those people in their jobs too.
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
And also your collaborator, Giancarlo, had some interaction with the orchestras, got to feel them out to some extent, right? When he was working with them in advance of your showing up. So it's really ingenious. I want to get back to the way the process has happened in Dead and Company as well, though, because every player has drawn on his resources, on his musical vocabulary to really transform and freshen up this music. You're hearing these songs in ways you never heard them in the Grateful Dead because of the way O'Teal plays in the pocket, and
Yeah.
because of the reharmonization and voicings that Jeff throws in, and because of Jay being really unpredictable with the way he's going to approach a tune on a given night. And so a song is, well, David and I have talked about this many times during the summer. A song is commonplace in the repertoire as Cumberland Blues. Just by the simple act of moving it into the second set and then moving it after space, it just suddenly became this playground it never was before. The Grateful Dead played it in a certain way, always played it really well, but you just cut the horses loose on that tune at one point, in the song now, and it can really go to an entirely different zone.
Well, and that's what we're trying to do in general with a lot of tunes is cut the horses loose on them, and it's a pity this tour isn't going to last a little longer so that we can get around to more tunes. But you take what you take what life gives you.
I appreciate that the blues end of the Grateful Dead book is getting a lot of action this year. John really has stepped up, and with It Hurts Me Too, and stuff like that. And hearing you doing Death Don't Have No Mercy, it's one of the interesting and really enjoyable expansions of this band's repertoire, or choices you guys have made on what to cover.
Well, that's really one of his strong suits, or it may be his strong suit. Is all that blues stuff. He's real good at it.
He's I think he's shown a pretty good grasp of the Mixolydian mode in recent years. I also because we've been watching this at home on Nugsnet for the most part, we get to watch and see your interactions a lot more closely than we can from a distance on the stage, and it's really, really fun to watch. Not just the expressions of delight as you all are surprising each other, but occasionally we get to see a little bit of traffic management coming from one or the other of you. And it's really interesting to see not just the hands on the keyboard and stuff, that's all thrilling too, but just getting to see how you guys relate to each other visually on stage is very cool.
Yeah, I've got to try to remember to look around a little more. I drift off into a zone where I'm staring at my hands, but I'm really not staring at my hands. I'm just somewhere else.
Gee, imagine that.
Well, Bobby, you mentioned like wanting to introduce more tunes into the book and stuff like that, and running up against the time limitation of this tour. But the wonderful thing about this music is it keeps reinventing in whatever incarnation comes next. I mean, the Grateful Dead, this may be a period on this lineup of this band as a touring entity, but the Grateful Dead, if we learn anything, there are no periods, just commas and semicolons. You're like the Grateful Dead may be the greatest run-on sentence in the history of music. and so whatever comes next is going to be informed by what Dead and Company did on this tour and as an entity in general. So we're looking forward to what comes next. I'm sure you've got more stuff coming up with Wolf Bros and other projects you got brewing. So can you give us a little tantalizing hint at what's next to come?
Well, I'm looking forward to. We're going to be working with the Stanford Symphony Orchestra, and one of the things that I want to try to do, and we'll see if we can get it together by the time we have. You have with a symphony orchestra, you have to sort of book yourself. You book your time. You can't just get on the phone and say, "Hey, let's get together." You have to sort of plan it out. And one of the things that I want to do is we have a couple of techniques for collective improvisation, whereby we can get we hope to get entire sections improvising on a given tune of one voice. And if we can do that, then the sky's the limit.
Wow.
But it's going to take some trial and error, and those kids are just the ones to do it with, because they're game for most anything, and they don't have reputations. They don't have professional reputations to uphold or anything like that. They're kids, and so I'm looking forward to a fairly long and fruitful relationship with those kids, as they come and go in that outfit. But I think it's just exactly where we need to be to look into the possibilities of collective improvisation on that scale. And I think we're going to get somewhere with this.
That sounds fascinating. I can't wait to hear more about that. And at the other end of the creativity scale, I wanted to ask you about songwriting. I watched one of those shows you did from the theater in Menlo Park where you did on stage songwriting with J.D. Souther, and it took me a second to figure out what it was. But once I figured out what it was, I thought that was extremely cool to do that in front of people.
It brings a little something to the party when you're songwriting in front of a live audience, and JD and I have we have we enjoy each other's company, but and we enjoy writing together, but this takes us to a new level. I've been too busy to chase down some of those threads that we got started, but as soon as this tour is done, I'm gonna see what I can do about fleshing some of that stuff out.
Wonderful.
Great. Well, Bobby, I don't know how much time we have left to be talking, but I think we're coming to the winding down phase.
We
but
got a couple minutes left.
All right. Well, as I said, I'm a crusty old pro in this. I'm at about, I think, 56 years since I first encountered you guys, and David's not far behind. And it's easy to take this stuff for granted, and it's easy to and maybe for the Grateful Dead, it was easy to take for granted too, because it was always there. But this has been so satisfying in the aspect that we are all like freshly delighted by this stuff, and it seems that is translate. It seems like that's translated to the band as well.
Yeah, I think I can speak for the other guys in saying that we're pretty freshly delighted with how things are turning out as well.
Great.
That's very nice to hear. Well, we should probably wrap it up because the band is going to come back on stage very soon.
That's right, Bob. You may only think that this is Tuesday, but you've actually got to be back on stage in a few minutes. So let us get you totally unstuck in time and have a great second set.
I get the picture.
I want to thank you again for the amazing experience that this has been. At Fare Thee Well in 2015, some fools thought that was the end of something. And we've seen that it very definitely is not that. And I am so thrilled and delighted with what you've done and so looking forward to what comes next. And I just want to thank you.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you.
And I'll tell you, Bobby, I was also remembering that in 1974, when you did that run at Winterland, Bill Graham had The Last One printed on the tickets. and there's something you said to me at various junctures in time when it seemed like something was coming to an end, Bobby. And the phrase you've used has always been, "Hell, we're just getting started." And I have come to believe you implicitly and explicitly in that, because you're always right about it.
Well, really, I'm hoping that what we're continually getting started will continue long after I breathe my last.
Yeah.
Seems well underway.
All right.
Seems like a good plan. All right, man. Thank you, Bobby. Thanks for this tour and the years of friendship and inspiration, man.
Pleasure's mine. Thanks for enjoying.